is Maylee Robinson and this is my reflective video for EDFX 348 Assignment 2. I recently underwent my placement for 15 days at Camberwell Grammar School, where I was the classroom teacher for 2 Years 6, 7 and 8 visual art classes. This 2 class per year level load meant I was able to develop, plan, reflect, redevelop where necessary and assess students' work based on my designed unit. Today I'll be reflecting on a teaching scenario during my Year 8 visual art class and the ways in which I initially identified this as a potential issue and how I reflected on it and subsequently came to refine and redevelop the class to avoid it happening next time. My first Year 8 class was a portrait drawing class. Using a backwards design approach to my planning meant that I identified the objectives of the class first, determined what I could see as evidence of learning, and then plan the learning activities around this. Students were to use mirrors to draw themselves in a range of techniques led by me, with a range of materials throughout the class. They would create a series of drawings for their class folios. This met the curriculum areas of exploring visual arts practices, experimenting with materials and techniques, and developing skills in planning and designing artworks. The 2 specific elements of the class in which I am reflecting on is the first activity. I called this a ripping portrait, where students used paper to look at themselves side on in a mirror and be able to rip the lines that they saw of their face. Long story short, it did not work, but more on this in a moment. The second element was the need for more explicit and direct instructioning to give students a clear idea of each technique and material I would be wanting them to use. The learning outcome for this Year 8 class was displayed on the PowerPoint. However, these 2 hiccups in the class meant that the learning outcomes were probably not as successfully met as I would have liked them to be. The planning and reflection of this class meant that they could be more achievable the next time around. By reflecting on action and reframing the experience, my mentor teacher and I could see the benefit in the next lesson for students to gather certain materials from different stations around the room, such as paper, charcoal, fine liners, etc. The noise level in the first class would rise on the completion of each drawing, as I was trying to administer the next lot of materials and give instructions to save time. However, it was incredibly disruptive as students were in their seats without a task and therefore would be distracted and begin talking. I'd have to settle them and then begin the next step of instructions. In the second class, they were to finish a drawing, put it on the drying rack, collect X paper size and collect Y material, and return to their seats. This was done while students were seated and quiet. I also gave them time to complete the collection, normally 30 seconds to 1 minute. This made the class run more seamlessly as students were involved in a task at every point and instructions were given when they were quiet. Using observation notes from my mentor, it was suggested that I should provide visual examples of each drawing technique and material. So I completed it to show the students what the drawing may look like. For example, when I asked them to do a blind contour drawing with a fine liner, not looking at the page for 1 minute, they would know exactly or sort of what a drawing would look like. This is a way I could improve and refine my pedagogical approach, and that had a positive impact on the second lesson taught as students could see what it looked like. Ensuring students know what to expect allows the class to have a larger sense of predictability. This may help to diminish any sense of stress or anxiety, especially to those students who have a heightened sensitivity to such disorders. Using such methods also provides a visual of what success may look like, which echoes the theoretical underpinnings of John Hattie's visible learning. Getting back to Activity 1, the ripping portrait, the activity left students struggling and lost. All students struggled to look side-on in the mirror and understand the concept of the outline and silhouette of their face. As discussed by Luke, Weir and Woods, students' performance is enhanced by a positive learning environment directed towards results. This activity left students feeling as though results were not achieved and thus not feeling engaged in the content, and it may alter their perception of the outcome for the rest of the class. This was most obvious in the class as the students seemed put off and generally not engaged and not taking the rest of the class seriously. While engaging with the reflective methods of reflection in action, meaning I was simultaneously reflecting while teaching, I could see the particular activity wasn't working, and I could use this to A, end the activity sooner than I intended, and B, I knew to remove or change this activity for the next class that I was going to teach the content to. The refinement of this activity meant that I could improve my pedagogical practice as I was going to change the activity to better the next class's experience and the ability to meet the learning outcomes that I wanted them to achieve. Reflecting and refining this lesson plan led me to have more structure, engagement, and a productive lesson all round. I came across a quote that led to the conclusion that through reflective questioning and finding solutions, you are adding another pocket to your coat. I think this was felt by me and picked up by my mentor teacher, as it seemed much more that I was in control of what was happening thanks to the changes that were made during the reflective practice.